Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This is for UFC 302. Producer Megan is on the sticks. Cody Saftik is on the line. We had a week off. We're back to business. I believe there's cards every single week this month, culminating in the return of Conor McGregor, UFC 303 at the end of June. So good times. Good times. The summer is heating up, Code.
Summer is heating up, and it feels like we're heating up a little bit. Couple UFC back. Rebecca, only one. But otherwise, it was like 11 of 12. And then the Bellator card had 10 fights on it, 9 of 10. And then last week's UFC card lost the first fight on the card, and then went 10 or 11 straight. So over the last 3 cards, 31 and 3. But all of them had the one loss. It wasn't a PRP. So we got to put our big boy pants on and hit that PRP. More so importantly now than ever, because news just hit the wire. The Red Dragon, rest in peace, no longer with us. Red Dragon and Paul that Pogi Rob had purchased, sold to one Paul Shaughnessy. Paul Shaughnessy sells it to producer Megan, and some dude hit and ran on producer Megan, trashed the car. So I got to hit a solidified parlay this weekend to get her that new car. So let's do this goddamn thing, Paul.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers go out to the Red Dragon, who had a good run, but got roughed up pretty bad. But luckily, producer Megan was okay. The one thing, main event last card, we had a shoey bet: Edson Barboza versus Lerone Murphy. Wasn't even close, Code. You're dead right. I've been taking a little bit of heat about my shoey boot, and I'd like to take the time to apologize to absolutely nobody. I got a gold chain for it, just so I can wear it as a necklace moving forward. But shoey is up. Man of my word, always pay my bets. That's I believe it's a grape slushy flavored Coors. They aren't paying me nothing. But it is them anyway. If they want to pay us something, reach out at Paul Shag at CJ Saftik on Twitter, and we'd be happy to drink your beverages. Sorry, what?
Paul's celiac, so that's like poison to him. So you got to like sponsor him with some weird, non-delicious hoppy beer. But again, I mean, the one loss we had from 2 weeks back, the Emily Ducati fight, first fight on the card. But man, at least we were right in the analysis that she was going to win the fight. Everybody would agree that she won the fight. And then judges just loved Vanessa Demopoulos. So end of the day, like, we do our best to get the predictions right and the picks right and the parlays right and the bets right in general. But as long as we can give like analysis, do this, and this, and then doesn't do.
We'll let Cody talk. Then I'll do the shoey. Then we'll get into the action.
Right. I thought you were just going to do the shoey while I talked, but
she kept kind of cutting.
It takes you 2 seconds.
People want to see me do the shoey, I feel like.
Okay, hit that shoey, and we'll jump into some UFC 302 action, pal.
Oh, yeah. Go back on the necklace. Anyway, main event. We got Islam Makhachev taking on Dustin Poirier, minus 700 for Makhachev, plus 500 for Dustin Poirier. I don't really like Poirier against any of these Dagestani wrestlers, Cody. I mean, Khabib is obviously Khabib. He's the man. He's the GOAT. But, it's a great little win that Poirier had last time out against Benoit Saint-Denis, kind of a guy who probably should have tried to lean on the grappling a little bit more than he usually does, but didn't. I mean, at minus 700, I don't think there's really any meat on the bone here. I did send you that little stat via DMs the other day that UFC fighters fighting for a title over the age of 35, under 155 pounds and lower, are 0-15. Shouts to Pepe. I believe he was the one who tweeted that out originally. I stole it and then sent it to you like it was my research. But we've seen Poirier in a lot of title fights. We saw him in, we've seen him in tons of spots. We love him. He's an action fighter, but I feel like the takedowns are going to be there for Makhachev whenever he wants them. Don't play with your food. The reason why I don't really want to like get involved at minus 700 is like we have seen Makhachev have a couple bad performances. One being against Adriano Martins. That was so long ago. Who cares? And
But still, yeah.
and then Volkanovski won the first time he fought Volkanovski. Like that was not a beautiful performance by any stretch of the imagination. In that type of fight, if he goes into the deep waters with Dustin Poirier, it's like he could get himself in a lot of trouble. So he'll be my pick. I don't know how I'm going to attack it from a betting perspective, but that's where I'm at. What about you?
Yeah, basically the same thing. Like, obviously, Makhachev is the favorite, but he's starting to take on almost too much money where you're running into a point where, well, how does Poirier win? Well, puncher's chance. And at least Dustin Poirier is a guy that's a bona fide legend, a first ballot Hall of Famer, a guy that's solidified his status as a junkyard dog that's going to swing for the fences. So the more that you're getting these giant plus 500 type plus price tags on him, the more appealing it does become. Doesn't take away from the fact that everybody thinks Makhachev wins, likely, more often than not. But he's getting at minus 700. Yeah, what do you do with it? So I'm of the train of thought that two things. I've always thought that Dustin Poirier, now 35 years old, is kind of at the end of his career. He's only fighting about once a year. He gives every fight everything he's got. He gives the training camps everything he's got. He gives it 100%. But because he's always done that throughout his career, his body's starting to catch up to him, and I don't think he can take those like rigors anymore. So he gets his Benoit Saint Denis fight. It's a fight that he's 2-3 to 1 underdog in. Benoit Saint Denis is supposed to be the next thing. The UFC had allegedly told Benoit Saint Denis, you beat Poirier, we'll give you the title shot. So you can kind of see what they're setting up here. The odds maker agrees. Benoit Saint Denis, too foolish to pull out of the fight. But no one's talking about this. Dude's got staph infection. He's got a giant staph infection in the middle of his forehead. So he, by all accounts, says, yes, I do have a staph infection. And I know I normally fight balls to the walls for 15 hard minutes. I look like I got cardio for days, but he has a staph infection. So if you don't know what that means, it's a viral infection, skin infection as well, but it just drops your immune system. It drops your energy levels. He should 100% have pulled out of the fight, but it's a giant spot on a giant pay-per-view. It's a giant opportunity. If he wins, he gets a title fight. It's a fight with Dustin Poirier, which doesn't come around every day, and you're a 3-1 favorite over the guy, so he just sees through with it. And he looks awesome against against Dustin Poirier for the first round and a half before he completely cooked out of gas, which is unusual for him. But it happened because he has a staph infection. And it's not like this is unknown, Paul. Like there's pictures of him with it dead smack on his face. He admits to it in interviews. He completely gasses, which is uncharacteristic for him. But till that point, he was outstriking Dustin Poirier 50-28 with 3 takedowns. Got out of the guillotine chokes, took him down when he wanted. Didn't have a ton of success with his top control, but he ain't Islam Makhachev. And was doubling him up on the strike count before he gassed out. And once he got gassed out, he made a sloppy mistake and got chin checked by the great diamond Dustin Poirier. So I'm not going to take away from the win, but it's tainted to me. It's got an asterisk next to it. It's not like clear cut. I went in there and kicked the shit out of Benoit Saint Denis as the underdog when no one was giving me a chance and he was at his best. It was like, you were getting beat up, and then the fact that he was sick as a dog caught up with him, and he gassed out, and you beat. I don't know, man. I can't give too much into that. So, what you can take away from that is Benoit's taking him down, and Makhachev is certainly, if he chooses to, going to be taking him down. Benoit can't hold him down, but Islam Makhachev would be able to hold him down. And the longer this fight goes, I know what you mean. You don't want to be in those later rounds with Dustin Poirier because he can't hit you, but he's 35 years old and he's going to be wearing the #1 pound for pound guy in the sport right now on top of him as a wet blanket for 2-3 rounds. Like, is he going to pull a Rocky moment later in the fight? Maybe, but the odds will start to decrease. The live betting market, he'll be a minus 3,000 favorite come the 3rd or 4th round. Now, if Makhachev approaches him like Adriano Martins, which you mentioned before, stands with him, well, why would you do that? But maybe he does, like that time he did that. And both fights with Volkanovski, he chooses to stand with him. Both fights with Volkanovski, well, I guess the first fight, he definitely took him down a bunch, but the longer the fight goes, there's that willingness to engage. The second fight, he outright just engages with him. That's how you don't fight Dustin Poirier. But when you're headlining a pay-per-view, there's a ton of hype, it's a big title fight, and you're a 7-1 favorite, you almost feel like you need to give the crowd a show. Sometimes you stand in front of the guy. That would be a mistake. If he fights to his capabilities, which is take him down and grind on him for 2-3 rounds, you'll either submit him late in the 3rd or just outright TKO him or catch him with something. I don't know. But Makhachev is undoubtedly the favorite. It's just where can we do something with this minus 700? So Definitely put him on your top ticket, assuming that the second play on there is like a very reasonable price tag because minus 700 is not getting you close to even money. And that's what we try to do at that top ticket. But I'm looking at the over 1.5 and then potentially the over 2.5. The over 2.5 is plus 145. And the thing with Makhachev is, though, even though he's a killer, he's one of these Dagestani wrestlers. Let me crush your spirit first. Yeah, he head kicked Volkanovski, who took the fight on a week's notice. Like, yeah, he could finish Dustin Poirier early, but you know Poirier can take a beating. You know the guy will give it until he's got zero left to give. And he's fought in these 5-round spots before. Makhachev is not an idiot. He's not going to hear ding, ding, ding and run into the center of the cage and brawl with them. He's going to pick and choose his spots, use his jab, use some footwork, set up some low kicks, set up that takedown, kill time off the clock, soften him up, and then choke him out late. So over 1.5 is the decent price tag, plus 145 and over 2.5. Yeah, I think that's where the value lies in this fight. If you like Dustin Poirier, then you have enough respect for this guy to last 7.5 minutes. Or 10 and, give me 2.5 rounds, 12.5 minutes. Like, I think I got that much respect for him, that he's got that much left to give. But does he win this fight? That I find is a little bit more of a reach. Can he? For sure. Anybody can win any fight anytime. But will he? Nah, I got to go with Makhachev still. So do I go with Makhachev by late finish or decision? That I'm on the fence about. But in both of those scenarios, the over 1.5 and 2.5 are still hitting. So I think that's where I attack it.
Yeah, I like that. The over 2.5 is plus money. It's like plus 145 out there. And I mean, of course, the finishes are very possible. Throw out the Volkanovski fight, but I mean, you look at Thiago Moises, a guy with good jiu-jitsu, was kind of able to hang in there until the 4th round. Drew Dober got into the 3rd round. I mean, Drew Dober really can't grapple at all, was able to at least hang out on bottom without getting submitted until late in the fight. Davi Ramos, another guy, went to decision, who obviously really, really good jiu-jitsu.
ADCC grab, yeah.
100%, but like Makhachev isn't always some sort of murderous first-round finish machine. So, yeah, Poirier's been in this type of situation. Don't hate the over 2.5, to be perfectly honest. And I suppose over 1.5 is decent little parlay fodder. Moving on down, we've got Sean Strickland taking on Paulo Costa, minus 225 for Strickland, plus 190 for Costa. I mean, I feel like this fight really comes down to volume. We've talked about Costa. He can land the big shot. He did land, the spinning back kick against Whitaker last time out and hurt him. But the volume's just never there. If this is a 5-round fight and this fight goes to decisions, like Strickland's going to put up 200 significant strikes and Costa would be lucky to get up to upwards of 100 significant strikes. He's just never really a volume guy. He's going to have to capitalize on landing the big strike. It's Strickland for me. Strickland by volume. Strickland maybe by decision. I haven't even looked at the prop there. But that's how I would attack this fight. What about you?
Yeah, same thing. Sean Strickland is a glorious phoenix that is burning very bright right now. And then eventually he is going to hit a wall. I don't think he'll ever be the same. That wall is, what point does his chin leave him for real? Not, dude, hit me with a spinning back kick. Not Alex Pereira folded me up. Like that day that chin breaks, like a Frank Yeager, a guy that's just legendary durability, but then it's not there anymore. Then his style is not going to work. And eventually, 33 years old, and he's taking a lot of damage. Not necessarily in the cage, which he's taking a lot of, but outside of the cage, he's taking a lot of. It's going to catch up to him at some point, but at the moment, current present point in time, he is a problem for anybody. And you tune into social media on just any random day, and here's Sean Strickland sparring with an 18-0 professional boxer, and he's giving it to the guy. And here's him against Alex Pereira in a sparring session. They train together now. Here's him versus some murderous kickboxer. Here's him versus a guy 2 weight classes above him. And all the guy does is get in there with everybody and gives them a goddamn go. He's one of those guys that's just not afraid to fight you, can throw hundreds of punches, stays in your face. And when you just continuously throw and you can take a punch, you're a serious problem. We'll have to break down. My boy Nick Diaz apparently is back. That's super cool. We'll have to break him down at a later date. But that style, when it works, of I can just stand in front of you and throw hundreds of punches. And you can punch me in the face. Go ahead. Doesn't really do anything. It's a serious problem. Strickland's a former champion. Went out there, beat Israel Adesanya, who is a bona fide champ, wasn't a paper champ, a guy that had earned it, temporarily at least retired his ass. Solid performance. Arguably beats Dricus, but again, another volume fight like you're talking about. And the biggest thing to me is that his number one weapon that he uses in all of his fights, that he uses in all these sparring matches, that he uses in all of these. If you're a Twitter troll and you show up to his gym and he beats up some random fan, because that's what he'll do too. He fights 24/7. The guy's just fighting all the time. He's a madman. His jab's legit good. And the thing about him is that he's got a 76-inch jab, which is long for the division. Paulo Costa be rocking a 72-inch reach. So there's a 4-inch reach advantage there. Now, you mentioned the Robert Whittaker fight. And Whittaker's best punch throughout is his jab because he's faster than Paulo. He's snappier than Paulo. And even though Paulo's landing those bigger punches, he can just touch him up with that jab. But Whittaker's only got a 73-inch. So he's got 1 inch on Paulo. And you see how advantageous that was and how effective the jab was in that scenario. Strickland to be the same thing, dude. He's got an extra 3 inches on top of Whittaker, and he's just going to keep him at bay. Paulo relies on those power punches. He wants to wind up on those big shots, land those big shots. But again, who's he knocked out? Couldn't knock out Luke Rockhold, which is super problematic. Didn't knock out Yoel Romero. Those are his last 2 wins. Knocks out Uriah Hall in the second round. That's in 2018. 6 years ago, he had knocked out Uriah Hall. Before that, Johnny Hendricks. 7 years ago. So just because he's built like an absolute tank and he throws caution to the wind and he's just throwing these hooks from the hip side, it hasn't necessarily translated into big punches. Like I wouldn't consider him one of the bigger punchers of the division. Whereas with Sean, if Sean's going to take those big shots when they occasionally come, but continue to double him up and triple him up, he's going to absolutely drown him. This was a 5-round fight. I got Strickland by stoppage. In a 3-round fight, Strickland by decision. But just to make sure, it is a 3-round fight, correct?
I thought it was 5. Because you know how recently they've been doing this.
It is a 5. It is a 5. Yeah, I think
co-main events they'll give
him
5-round fights sometimes on pay-per-views.
I think he TKOs him late, strictly on when you look at Costa's body language in a lot of these spots, right? The Luke Rockhold fight, the Robert Whittaker fight, the Marvin Vettori fight. That's a sickening fight. That goes 5 rounds. Marvin landed 190. Costa landed 163. He just throws, but his hands are at his hips the entire time. His mouth's open. He's curling over. He's huffing and puffing. In his subsequent fights, he's not looking to throw down that much. It's like he's also getting older. He's also just now relying on some big shots. But Strickland's not that guy. He's continuously putting on you. So I'd most definitely have my boy Sean Strickland win this fight. Sean Strickland. The question is, can he force that late stoppage, or does he just, because he's another guy that he can hit you 150 times. It doesn't also translate into knockouts. They're both not huge knockout guys. They're both durable. You could see it going to decision. But 25 minutes of standing there and just exchanging, I find it hard to believe that this thing's going to go 25. So inside the distance for me on the co-main event, and I'm going to take Sean Strickland.
What about what are the Strickland late props looking like, Codes? Let's see here. Strickland round 4.
5th round TKO.
It looks like 11 or 12 to 1. It's early in the week for this type of stuff. 18 to 1 is the best on Strickland round 5 that I see. Those will probably be like, you'll probably find like 12 and 20 probably as more books open it up. Don't hate it.
Yeah. Paulo Costa, last time he went 5 rounds, it was 3 years ago, right? And I just looked right now. Sean Strickland's been 5 rounds 6 times in his last 8 fights. So like, yeah, he's gonna get it done. He's gonna get it done action man style, where it's like eventually you're just tired of taking the punches and you crumple over. They're built for 5 rounds. They're a bit of a slow starter, might lose the first round to a boost Magomedov, but like, go back and talk to Abus, who he knocked out in the second. He put a beating on him. Go back and talk to Nasruddin Imavov, who survived, but you could have stopped that fight a couple times. Like, he put a beating on him. Like, all you need is a referee that's just tired of seeing you get beat up. And those guys are in better shape, I would say, than Paulo. Paulo looks the part, doesn't fight the part.
100%. All right, we got Kevin Holland taking on Michal Oleksiejczuk. -300 for Kevin Holland, +250 for Oleksiejczuk. I sent you a DM earlier this week saying, like, look at the ears on Michael Oleksiejczuk. And you'd be like, this guy could probably grapple. Probably the worst. I mean, it probably proves that he's putting in the time in the gym and then gets really deep into submissions and is like fighting out of them or whatever. But it's like his ears look like a guy who has had success in that department, and it ain't true whatsoever. Holland obviously was down at 170. I believe this fight's at 185. I thought it was, for whatever reason, I was thinking maybe it was at 170, but it seems like it's at 185.
Could you imagine? Yeah, could you imagine Mike Yeo?
Mikey
Because
Yeo.
he's a former 205er, right? He's not making 170, I don't think.
Here's where this matchup kind of comes down to it for me. Is Holland, for all of his flaws, his chin is incredible. Really, really good durability. I think Oleksiejczuk will probably land some good stuff early in the fight, but his cardio has always been a big time question mark. And yeah, if Holland doesn't go away, which he really doesn't, he's able to eat big shots from the best of the best at the best of times. I feel like Oleksiejczuk will have some big time success early, and then Holland will find his groove. He'll find his range. Oleksiejczuk will slow down, and I kind of see this ending in like a club and sub type of situation, where he rocks Oleksiejczuk. They go up against the cage, and then Holland, like, who is a good grappler, bad wrestler, as evidenced by the Michael Page fight. It's just like he can't really get the fight to the ground, but when he does get it to the ground, he's shown some flair for the submission. So Holland by sub plus 275 is how I'm playing this one. But yeah, Holland will be the pick, but it's going to be dicey, I think, early. He's going to eat some shots. Oleksiejczuk's probably not going to respect his power early on in this fight, but he'll slow down and Holland will take over. What's your take here?
Yeah, obviously it's going to be dicey because the way Oleksiejczuk fights is generally just, it's heavy heat. It's heavy heat early. He's a front runner. He likes to get those quick finishes. He's got 6 first-round knockouts in the UFC. Jean Vellante, Gazimot Antagulov. He knocked out Shamil Gamzatov. He knocked out Sam Alvey, Cody Brunridge, and Chidi Njokuani, all in the first round. It's when the fights start to extend beyond the first round, as you alluded to, his game just totally falls apart. Not like he's a quitter, but his body just doesn't reply. He gets into a bad positional spot. He's done. So, yeah, he's a front runner. He can put it on you, but he's definitely a glass cannon. The higher you move up in the ranks and the better you start to fight guys, it becomes harder to put them away. As I talked about, Jean Vellante, fanned out of the organization, I wouldn't say quickly, he had a decent amount of fights, but always at the lowest level and always just sloppy, low-level fights. Didn't have a long run, been retired for years. Antagulov, no good. Shamil Gamzatov, total fraud. Sam Alvey, tail end of his career. Cody Brundage, definitely not a fan of him. Everybody knows that. Chidi Njokuani, that's a decent win. That's a decent win, but again, I mean, he caught Chidi Njokuani in the first round. Like, that's his win condition. Everything else, it's like it's a byproduct of them matching them up fairly softly with guys that weren't going to go well beyond in this division. So with Kevin Holland, yeah, is he better suited at 170 pounds? Sure, but he's won plenty of fights at 185. With his frame, he certainly doesn't look out of place. In fact, without the weight cut, you could argue that he's going to be happier. He's going to have more energy. He's going to have more of an ability to go out there and kind of press forward and do his thing, be a little more active and tire out Mike Yeo. So I think that, to me, as same points that you made, is the move. Pre-fight flop, yeah, all day, I'd have to go with Kevin Holland, but you may get a better price on this in the live betting market, knowing that Kevin Holland is a bit of a trickster. He comes in, he's talking, he's known as Big Mouth, he's doing his little kung fu thing, throwing some karate chops, dinking around, where he's got a Polish pit bull in front of him that's chomping at the bit, that's going to go hard for those 5 minutes. But knocking out Kevin Holland is a problem. Taking him down and submitting him, unless you're Chimaev, it's still very difficult. The guy's a black belt. And it's not as if Mikey O is taking him down or submitting him. Like, let's be real. His win condition is chin-checking guy that's historically been very durable, has volume, has pace, has finished a lot of these guys later on in rounds, has way better wins on his resume. it's a Kevin Holland pick. And again, when you look at a card like this and you're like, oh well, there's a lot of big favorites in this and that. A guy like Islam Makhachev, he's fighting a Hall of Fame worthy fighter. He's a minus 700. When I look at Sean Strickland at minus 230, Kevin Holland minus 280, minus 300, like those guys got, as much of a chance. I think they win a lot, good percent of the time, right? Good percent of the time. And the value is just significantly better at minus 280, minus 250 range, as opposed to a minus 700. It's a fist fight. We know what we're getting into. Anybody can win, but Poirier is world class. Paulo Costa, I don't think Paulo Costa is a world class guy, right? He fights world class opponents. He's in there with all the best guys, but again, he's short on wins. Mikey O is the same thing. He's short on wins. He's not a world class guy. Fading him feels a lot safer at minus 250 or minus, that type of range, you know what I'm getting at, as opposed to fading a Dustin Poirier, who's just, it's like fading Charles Oliveira. Like the Sarukian fight makes sense, but you're going to get a world-class opponent and you overbet the favorite. Minus 700 is crazy. It's an overbet on the favorite. These fights, you have just as good of a chance and they're way better. So that's kind of where I'm looking to anchor a lot of my tickets this week is these type.
Cool.
And yeah, Kevin Holland, the pick, just like you. Just say, so we're on the same page there as well.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. We all carry around different stressors, big and small. When we let them bottle up, these stressors can affect us negatively in our everyday lives and stall the pursuit of our long-term goals. Therapy is a safe space to get things off your chest and figure out how to work through whatever's weighing you down. It's important to learn positive coping skills and how to set boundaries to start to affect your life in a positive way. There might even be some things that you're not even really thinking about that are keeping you from being your best self. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched up with a licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge if you're not liking it. Visit betterhelp.com/doggerpass today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/doggerpass. All right, we got Jailton Almeida taking on Alexandr Romanov, minus 300 for Jailton, plus 250 for Romanov. Not going to lie, Cody. Romanov's had a very, 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 controversial run here and all of that. Jailton was absolutely dominating everybody, even getting 9 takedowns against Curtis Blades early on in that fight. Wasn't able to hold him down, which led to his demise because he kind of cooked himself, got himself all gassed out, and ended up getting finished in the second round. But we've seen kind of with Jailton at this point that he doesn't have a plan B, right? It's like he's able to get those takedowns. If he's able to just constantly get those takedowns and you're not able to get back up like Derek Lewis, he can go 5 rounds. But if you are able to get back up, if you are able to extend these things, or if you are able to set a pace that becomes really, really exhausting, obviously he can fall off of a cliff. This is kind of more of like a price play as far as I'm concerned. Whereas at least with Romanov, one, we know that he's got pretty solid wrestling. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like when they first engage. I imagine Jailton Almeida will be able to get those takedowns early. I mean, he was able to do it to Curtis Blades. He's probably able to do it to everybody early. But then what happens? If he's not able to find the submission, is he going to fall off a cliff? And obviously Romanov has had his own gassing issues before as well. But going up against Blagoy Ivanov, only getting 2 takedowns, but being able to put up 85 significant strikes in that matchup, win a clean decision, that's something that I don't think Jailton has in his bag of tricks. Like the stand-up just seems so rudimentary and so hit or miss at this point that I think this is a classic dogger pass heavyweight type of situation, Code. What about you?
Okay, so again, who is going to shit in the apple pie for us? Because as much as there's big favorites on this card and we can agree with them, yeah, there's going to be those spots where heavyweight fight, greasy heavyweight fight, both guys questionable, both guys fade worthy. And I'll be 100% honest with you, Paul. When this fight got announced right away, just from like, the chatter, water cooler talk, the chatter's like, dude, I think I like Romanov. I think I like Romanov. Way big guy. He's like a 300-pound man, cuts down to 265. He's got the superior wrestling, so taking him down would be a problem. But in fact, he could maybe take Almeida down. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's been competing in grappling tournaments recently and doing fairly well for himself. Monster of a man, very athletic, still only 33, which is young at heavyweight. He's got that quit in him, and he's got suspect cardio. But he's fighting a 205er that's a little bit suspect to himself. So why not? And then I talked to a few people that I'm betting Romanov. And then to see the line, well, you're like, Jailton made it still a 3-1 favorite. So that's the talk. So like, what side do I fall on with this one? So I actually think Romanov's mad suspect. I don't want to bet him, even at plus money, even if it's good plus money, which it currently is. Like I'm just not into betting him. Why I say that is, again, he's another guy that when he looks good, it's against the lowest level of opposition that they have. Roque Martinez, Marco Rogério de Lima, Juan Espino. The Juan Espino fight was the fight where he shows that quit in him. He wins the first round. He looks like $1 million. The second round, he's tired. He can't get the takedowns. Even though he's got a nice jab, even though he moves well on his feet, soon as he tires, all of that goes out the window, and he's looking for a way out. The third round, he has that way out, and he takes it. That one. That's fair. Who did they throw him in there with next? Chase Sherman. Well, that's a pretty winnable fight, man. So he does exactly what he needs to do. Takes him down, submits him. For the record, he was minus 2,200 favorite over Chase Sherman. It was to that point, I think maybe still to this day, the biggest singular favorite on a UFC card of all times. So if you want to give him that kind of fight, perfectly tailor-made fight, he'll win. He'll win. But this is not a guy that's at American Top Team that's grinding hard every day. He's out of Maryland. He's got his own little setup there. His cardio is not improved in 10 UFC fights. And when you give him a way out, he takes it. He took it against Marcin Tybura when he gassed out, had nothing to give. The Volkov fight, okay, it's an elite level striker. But again, like he hits the mat. And in that fight, what you see is he's got nothing off of his back. He's like a good offensive wrestler. He's the kind of guy that takes you down and sits in your guard. He's very top heavy and hard to hit a sweep on, maybe hard to scramble off because of his sheer size. But when he's on his back, he's a tree stump. He's just lying there. There's no mobility to him. That's what I saw on that fight. Quickly TKO'd. Again, you see the quit in him. So now we got a guy that potentially doesn't have the heart of a fighter. I don't want to back that. He doesn't have the cardio. Well, all of my bets are generally who has the better cardio, because once this thing divulges into a greasy mess, I want the guy that can keep up with the pace, which I just don't think he can. The Blagoy fight looked better in the Blagoy fight, who immediately got cut, got signed by PFL, and then lost a fight over there. So Blagoy's at that stage of his career. And then watch this Chris Daukaus Fury grappling 8 match. He wins pretty handedly, but like he scores like 30 takedowns, and he just takes Daukaus down, and Daukaus just immediately stands back up. And then he just takes Daukaus down, and Daukaus just immediately stands back. It's almost comical. Daukaus stands up like he probably takes him down 10 times in the first 2 minutes of the match, and Daukaus just stands up. And then eventually they both gas out, and that's the end of it. But to me, he's not improving his striking. He's probably the best guy in his gym. There's nobody really pushing him. It's hard to find guys that are 6'2", 300 pounds. 265 pounds. It's hard to find large guys that aren't playing other sports. So you almost do have to congregate to teams that have a couple bodies for you so that you can at least get some work in. I'm not a fan of what he's done with his career. I think the guy that debuted and fought Roque Martinez, or the guy that, submitted Chase Sherman, I think he's just as good now as he was back then. So that, to me, that's a problem. What Jailton will I'll admit is that he looked like $1 million. It looked like this guy could just stay at 205 and be the 205-pound champion. Like who's messing with Jailton Almeida at 205? But for some reason, he insists on, he can make 205. He insists on fighting at heavyweight. And there was going to be a problem where I run into guys that are just quite simply too big. The Derek Lewis fight was a red flag because he went 5 rounds with Derek Lewis. But to take him down that many times, to control him that much, to be able to do it for an entire fight, like it's that, that's not 25 minutes of taking a giant guy down and dominating him. No finish, no urgency. I still took him down and dominated him. And then Blades, he gassed out, taking him down a bunch. But as far as I'm concerned, he can take down anybody. He showed that in the Blades fight where he took down one of the best wrestlers of the division, as you mentioned earlier, right? And he took him down 9 times. But when he was on the Contender Series, they matched him up with Nasruddinov. This guy's a big boy, man. He's a big boy and he's a very adequate wrestler. And it's the same thing. He actually takes Almeida down. Almeida gets back up, leans on him, peels him down, puts a beating on him, right? So I think Almeida will be able to go out and take Romanov down. If Romanov elects to use all this energy to explode and get back up, he's going to gas. And if he gets mounted like Derek Lewis and, Almeida just sits there and sits on top of him for 5 minutes, doesn't do anything, he's still going to gas. And if Almeida grabs the back and touches his neck, or if Almeida gets a little bit of ground and pound going, or if Almeida takes that full mount and realizes, shit, I was going to get a title fight. And now everyone's laughing at me and picking a guy like Romanov over me. Like his stock is plummeting. If he just goes for it a little bit more, he get a finish in this fight as well. The thing being is that he's shown that he can take down larger men. I think taking down Romanov, yes, would be a task. But in the 6th minute of the fight, in the 7th minute of the fight, the longer the fight goes, that's when you take him down. Early, it's all about just weathering the storm. And Romanov doesn't have this big knockout game, right? He doesn't have this submission game he has is over guys like Chase Sherman. It's not going to work out Jailton Almeida. So what's his win condition? If he doesn't knock out Almeida and he doesn't submit Almeida, it'd be like the Blagoy fight. He has to win the decision. He has to win the decision. That's how he's going to have to do it. Take him down, grind him out. Is he going to take him down? Is he going to get taken down? I went back and forth with it because the price is so juicy and it's so tempting. And I was very high on Romanov when he first came into the UFC. I really liked him. I really liked him as a prospect who was like 28 years old, former sumo fighter, moves like the wind, and is 300 pounds. But now it's 4 or 5 years later, and it's like he has not progressed his game whatsoever. He's still in the same confines of his small circles. He's still doing his same routines. It's almost like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But it's not getting him over the hump of elite level competition. You can be bums if you want, doing what you're doing, just what he's doing. But at some point, you're going to hit that block. Almeida, his stock is plummeting, but he's still young. He's still talented. And he's coming off fights over Derek Lewis, who's reinvented, back on track apparently again. And a tough fight in Curtis Blades, who's getting a title fight against Tom Aspinall. So he's right there fighting the best guys. Romanov mightily struggles when he takes on top 10 contenders, guys like Marcin Tybura, guys like, just of an upper ilk. So yeah, I got a problem with that. I got a problem with that. The price is so tempting. I just don't want to be one of those guys that chases price. So I got 2 short underdogs and 1 good underdog later on in the card. 3 underdogs overall, I think I'm going to go with. I'm going to lock in. This just ain't one of them, Chief. I'll take a shoey bet. You want to do like a 3-1 shoey bet?
Nah, not really. Not
okay,
really.
So you don't even like him. Well, man, that's all I need to know then, boss. Honestly, that's all I need to know.
I like him, but do I like him that much? Do I want to? I mean, here's the thing. Historically, I had Juan Espino against you, and then this guy quit and then still won because of, the foul or whatever. So it's a bad taste in my mouth about taking shoey bets involving Alexandr Romanov.
And
I suppose, in fairness, I didn't have the child's rain boot back in those days, so maybe the shoey would taste a little bit better. But nah, I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna pass on the shoey bet with you there. But yeah, I'll end up having it'll be a small little play on Alexandr Romanov. Because I think he can win by decision. And for the record, you just kind of were like, and then Blagoy went off to PFL and then he lost. It's just like Blagoy very possibly got robbed in that fight.
No, dude, now you sound like Ian Parker.
Sergey.
Now you sound like Ian Parker. No, dude, that was ridiculous. Watch back that fight.
And I watched that fight live.
Let's have Ian Parker on for the 3rd round. And he's like, we got this thing in the bag. It's like, what fight? What fight are you watching?
There was nothing like that, but it was.
It was a terrible fight.
It was
a terrible fight. Blagoy, in my opinion, slightly edged a very close and terrible first round, and he lost a very close second round, and then 100% loses the 3rd round, which is typical Blagoy. You can't kill the man. He got stabbed in the heart. He lived to tell the tale. He's so unbelievably durable. Smack him in the face with a frying pan. It's not going to do any damage to him, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not surprised he went to decision, right? With Romanov's case, it's like, okay, you went to decision. But again, Blagoy just plods forward, doesn't have that. He's got sambo, but he doesn't quite have that wrestling to do anything there. The striking, it's very plodding. And even though I thought Romanov won that 30-27, his cardio looked better. he's not trending upwards. He's not like you know me, Paul. We do the show every single week, more or less. We've done 1,000 episodes at this point. Yeah, but I give people passes all the time where I'm like, oh, dude, this guy lost 2 in a row, 3 in a row, but I like him. Chase Hooper, I like him. He's getting his ass kicked. But but he's trending in the right direction. Doesn't have to be young. It's you're getting better. Right? Those later stages of your career can still be good, can still be viable. Some people pick it up a little bit later. It just depends how much wear and tear, I suppose. But the main thing is, it's like, oh, damn, he was in this fight. But Charles Johnson's an excellent example. Charles Johnson can't wrestle. Everybody knows it. But the dude's never been knocked out. Dude's not getting submitted. Dude's wrestled with all of the best guys in the division, and they all have taken him down nearly 10 times. But he gets back up, and he makes you work. And now it's like, you know what? I might bet the guy. Getting better, fight to fight. And we cashed on that last time out against Jake Hadley. It felt like easy money. You know what I mean? It shouldn't have. It's a fight. It was plus 110 or something stupid. It wasn't much, but money came in on him. He went off at plus 110. But all the same, it's like you see a guy progressing. You see a guy getting better. With Romanov, it's like he's a one-trick pony. I grab you. I toss you to the ground. I get on top of you. Remember the Roque Martinez fight where he's King Kong Bundy smashing him? Like, do you think somebody's teaching him that in a gym? Like, do you think someone's saying this is the best way to ground and pound an opponent? No, dude, he's just brute strength over muscling these people. But that works in the gym when you're the big dog, and that works against, fringe 20 level opponent. But eventually it's like you now have to fight the big dog in another gym, and you're just ill prepared for it. He could have taken these losses and gone back to the drawing board and gotten much better. The Blagoy fight is a step in the right direction. The Chris Daukaus fight, again, to what I saw, it was just, I'm way bigger than this guy. I'm just going to take him down. He gets back up, take him down. He gets back up, take him down. He gets back up, lying on top of him. That's the end of it. Mm-hmm. If Jailton struck a little more, I'd like it, because it's like the judges will go with damage more than just like spam takedowns. But what Jailton will do is spam takedowns on Romanov. Both these guys spam takedowns on each other. They're both going to theoretically gas out. But Jailton's fought 5 rounds against Derek Lewis. It was fine. He scored 9 takedowns on Curtis Blades. Pretty goddamn impressive. A very large human being. I got more faith in that than Romanov took him down 8 times and then gassed out and then was awful. Because when he gasses out, he's awful. So it's a live crowd in New Jersey, and they're not going to be down with this style of just suplex. Oh, that's so sick. Second suplex. Dude, this is my boy. 7 minutes of him curled over, huffing and puffing. They'll start to boo him. Almeida takes him down. Almeida establishes top control. And again, if you're just going to watch one fight, you don't got time, you got a wife and kids, you got shit on the go. If you're just going to watch one single fight, watch him versus Volkov, okay? Volkov takes his back and just smacks him up from back control and TKOs him. Alexandr Volkov, 6'7", credited kickboxing champion, dope fighter. Huge fan of his work. Not really known for his ground game, but has a ground game. Smacks him silly once this guy's on his back. So if Almeida completes 1-2 takedowns and gets on top of him, I think you'll see the quit come up. And Lewis has got no quit in him, because Lewis has knocked out guys in the 3rd round, the 4th round, 1 second left on the clock. Derek Lewis has made a career out of fighting until the very last second and putting people away. Romanov, not that guy. So if he's mounted for 10, 15 minutes, he's going to give it up, dog. He's going to give it up. I might be inclined to also hit a live bet on Almeida. If I don't like the line right now. We've both agreed on that. Terrible live line right now, or money line right now. If he gets taken down a bunch in the 1st round, Romanov exerts himself, Romanov wins the round, this thing drops down to even money with a Romanov 1st round victory. You don't think so? You don't think he gets to even?
No, I think Jailton gets takedowns against anybody if he wants takedowns against anybody early. So it's like you're going to get a worse line on Jailton. I mean, he took down Curtis Blades 9 times.
If Romanov wins the first round,
himself and died by doing it, and then that was a pretty embarrassing finish against a guy like Curtis Blades. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Blades is world class.
Both of these guys got shit on them, Cody. They both got and if I'm building a pie,
you're not wrong.
I just don't want to put the minus 300 into my pie. So it is what it is.
We'll keep them lower on the parlays. You're not wrong, brother. You're not wrong there.
They both have big red flags. I mean, it's heavyweight. It's middle of the rung heavyweight. The winner of this probably kind of reinserts himself into that top 5-ish type of conversation. in a division where John Jones is refusing to fight anybody who's an actual contender and is waiting for 43-year-old Stipe. And I mean, heavyweight's a mess. It's a damn mess since they let the real champion, Francis Ngannou, walk. But that's none of my business. Moving on down, we've got Randy Brown taking on Elizeu Zaleski. Minus 170 for Randy Brown, plus 150 for Zaleski. Who you got?
This one feels more like a dog or pass. Like, I think if you're going to go forward with a bet on this, you almost chase a little bit of value. I'm not a chase value kind of guy, but it feels very much like it's a 50-50 type fight. Both guys got a lot of merit to them. I like Randy Brown. To be honest with you, this is a fight I'm still struggling with internally because I've been betting Randy Brown in a pile of these spots. I like what he does. It's the conservative approach. He's very, very tall, very, very long. Rocks a very long reach, fights with a long jab, stays to the outside, and uses a mixture of these low calf kicks, nice front kicks up the middle, nice jabs from the outside. He's shown he's got 15-minute cardio. He touch and goes. I'm not betting for the point at the center of the cage and swing for the fences. I'm betting on the who's going to stick to a game plan, stay to the perimeter, and fight the smart fight. Who knows this is the easiest path of victory and will pursue that path of victory. Randy Brown been that guy. And as a result, he racks up these wins. But there's noticeably in these fights, let's say, he's slowing down. He's slowing down in such where his footwork and his quickness, his like reflex time isn't quite as sharp as it used to be. So when you're pawing out these jabs, you have to be snappy. You got to be sharp. Imagine Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, another guy, love betting on him when he's not fighting grapplers, bounces in and out, bounces in and out. Imagine he loses some notch on that speed. Well, now you bounce in. You're not bouncing out as quick. You're going to start getting countered. His submission game has been good at times. Like offensively, he has good triangle choke, good armbar, good positional awareness, good offensive wrestling. He can throw a couple takedowns in the mix, use some decent spots to his advantage. Up against the cage, he can use that long man approach, tons of leverage there. But his defensive grappling ain't great. Like if you take him down, which again, because of his height and his high center of gravity, his takedown defense is good, but not great. If you get on top of him and he exposes his neck, the submission's there. So you've seen him in the past. Jack Maddalena chokes him out. But more problematic, I suppose, would just be the last fight with Wellington Turman, slow pace. The fight with Muslim Solecki gets the first round knockout, but against a 40-year-old Muslim Solecki. At some point, Randy Brown's quick little tactics are going to catch up to him. And the thing with Zaleski, sorry, I always mess his name up. Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos is the guy for 37 has just aged immaculately. Like he throws heat. He's capable of throwing heat. It seems like in his last two fights, he's reeled back a little bit. But what I like about him is that he's able to carry that heat into the second round, into the third round. He's constantly going for it. Of course, he's notorious because he knocked out Sean Strickland with a spinning hook kick. So again, he's got that flashy technique. Knocked out a guy that's done well at 205 and 185 at 170 pounds with a spinning hook kick. It's a nice win. It's a nice win. Some of these other wins, you might not have heard the guy, but they're quality. He fought Benoit Saint-Denis in his debut. Absolutely pulverized the guy, landed 149 significant strikes. But with his style, he's accrued a lot of injuries. So his time off in between fights, he's had a bunch of surgeries, has had a bunch of work done. He doesn't necessarily fight as much as he should. And I can't say his game's progressing, but he's one of these really salty Brazilians that's in it to win it and is going to be swinging down on you. His last time out against Renat Fakhretdinov, interesting fight because he loses the first two rounds, but his takedown defense was pretty solid. He, for the most part, kept Fakhretdinov off of him, discouraged him, and they slung it out. The first two rounds, you do see that he's noticeably a little bit slower himself. He's not the quickest, most explosive guy that he's been in the past, but that third round, boy, oh boy. So I think I'm going to go with Brown, and it's going to be way low on my, like, parlay picks, I think, in terms of like the PRP, because I fully recognize that Elizeu is going to be dangerous in the first, he'll be dangerous in the second, he'll be dangerous in the third. What Brown likes to do is plot in with those singular strikes. It's a single jab. It's a single low kick, right? Whereas his opponent Elizeu is throwing in combination and he's moving forward and there's a live Newark crowd that's behind him and judges are looking for damage. So popping a guy with a jab and a little calf kick doesn't resonate as much as this guy throwing a goddamn spinning hook kick at your head or throwing some murderous punch from the hip side. And if you go back to him versus Abubakar, he wins a split decision, but again, it's the bigger shots is what they're looking at. So God damn, I'm conflicted again because I want to take Brown, which I feel is a cop out, but it feels like such a dogger pass in my mind because I feel like the bigger shots, the forward pressure, the live crowd, more damaging blows. Brown likely tries to mix in a few takedowns. I just don't think he's going to get them, right? So if you can stop the takedowns, keep this guy upright, put that pressure on him, fight a hard 15, similar to Ducote versus Demopoulos. People can think Ducote won. I thought Ducote won. People can think that, but the forward pressure and the getting punched in the face 5 times by small little shots, but throwing a couple big heaters, that works. And that's worked throughout the history of the UFC. What are the worst decisions that you remember? It's like, dude, Diego Sanchez when he robbed Ross Pearson. It's like, oh, that was filthy. It's like, yo, Leonard Garcia when he robbed Korean Zombie. It's like, oh my God, that was criminal. But what do those fights have in common? One guy is swinging at air and coming forward the entire goddamn time. And the opponent's landing a ton, but there's a vibe in the arena and people are pumped up and you got dropped twice, but you're still coming forward. And judges seem to just get behind it. They're human beings. They tend to get behind it. So where I screwed up with Ducote and Vanessa is like knowing that it was going to be a close and competitive fight, knowing that it was going to be, I needed the judges to get it right. And Vanessa's in all these dirty splits. It's like, I should have just had it right at the bottom or very near to the bottom. So this to me is the same thing. I could see going with Brown because I could see him winning the fight, but it's going to be close and contentious. And I just wouldn't want to higher up. Flip side to that, if you're going to be like, dude, it's a 12 fight card, you know, not all these favorites are going to win. And I agree, they're not. So like which dogs have the highest likelihood of coming through? You may think Romanov, not a bad one because it's a greasy ass heavyweight fight. I say this one because I got a 33-year-old. He's turning 34 in like a month and a half. Got a 34-year-old versus a 37-year-old, both primarily strikers, both lower-ish volume. One guy's a Brazilian junkyard dog that swings for it, and it's a decent plus money price tag at plus 145. Don't be surprised if the picks come out on Saturday and Dos Santos is on it. But I want to see the weigh-ins. I want to get like as much info. I want to really see this thing through, get as much tape study, hear as many interviews, and then lock it in. But this could be a dog or pass and a decent opportunity to take a swing at a plus money underdog here.
Well, you said like, oh, it's going to be, you like Romanov. I kind of look at the situation like, why not both? Why not both, Cody? I could see Elizeu Zaleski beating him on volume. He has a crafty submission game if it gets into that type of situation. Like, even if Randy Brown is able to take him down, like, I think he could kind of find himself in some trouble down on the mat with Zaleski. Randy Brown is from the New Jersey area, so I suppose the crowd will be a little bit on his side. But yeah, at this price, this number, I've never really been too big of a Brown guy, to be perfectly honest. So I think Zaleski's another dog with a shot here. Plus 150 in a fight that I could see being pretty 50-50. I'll take the dog shot on Elizeu Zaleski. Moving on down, we got Roman Kopylov taking on Cesar Almeida. Almeida has swung into being the favorite at minus 120. Kopylov can be had for plus 100. I mean, this is what happens when you have like no fights on for a full week in between. It's like this got kind of steamed. Like Kopylov opened up at like minus 200. It was like plus 150 on Almeida. And people have been pounding Almeida all week. I took a little bit. Limits were kind of shorter than they usually are, but I took a little bit at like plus 120 on Cesar Almeida. Here's what it comes down to, Cody, and I said it against Dylan Budka last time. I'll take the guy with the win, with the kickboxing win, over Alex Pereira. I know it was a long time ago, but I'll take that guy. I know he's 36. He's a little bit long in the tooth, yada, yada, yada. But
it's not 55 or under.
This guy's good. He's solid. Is he going to win a title? I don't think so. But, like, his stand-up is on point. And obviously, as we saw in the Budka fight, it's like he's working on the other aspects of MMA. Like, he's putting in the work on the other parts of his skill set that are obviously exploitable to a certain extent against certain opponents. Kopylov mostly likes to just hang out in fights, stand up, and exchange. And I feel like I agree with the line movement here. If this is just a kickboxing match between the two of them, I'll take the guy with an absolute wealth of kickboxing experience in Cesar Almeida. What about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Roman Kopylov. But again, Roman Kopylov at 2-1. I agree with all your points. It's like, ooh, two strikers probably gonna strike it out. You got one guy that's a world class kickboxer. The other guy is a good striker, but he's not world class in that singular art. So if he doesn't mix in any type of wrestling into his game plan, yeah, he's gonna have some serious problems on his hands. So why not go banger versus banger, 50-50 fight, dog or pass? But now that it's evened up, it's like, okay, just take whoever you think is actually going to win the fight. And I got to go with Kopylov. It's not that I have anything against Cesar Almeida, although people will say you tried taking that shot with Budka. That's fair. It was like quite literally the PRP pick, but you knew Budka was going to be a better wrestler. And this guy's going to be a better striker. Budka did take him down 3 times. Unfortunately, gassed out from taking him down. And Almeida chin checks him. So that fight was going to go one of 2 ways. Didn't go the proper way. With Almeida, though, yeah, he's a really good striker. But what I don't fully know is, can he fight a full MMA fight longer into it? Can he go that hard 15? Can he, overcome certain positions? Like on Contender Series, he goes 15 minutes, but it's a lower-ish pace fight. Like, I don't think he got really pushed. Kopylov, meanwhile, he's in the pocket with you. He's moving forward. He's swinging. And I got a nagging suspicion. Could be wrong. Could be way off on that. Got a nagging suspicion that Kopylov's going to come in here and use his own offensive wrestling. Now, why I say that is because it's not unheard of. Like, Alex Morono had never successfully taken a guy down, and then all of a sudden, Riz McKee fight, he takes him down a bunch and dominates him because it was just the path to victory, right? You see sometimes these certain spots where Vicente Luque versus Rafael Dos Anjos. Did you think he was going to go out there and take RDA down 9 times? No, but he did because he had it in his back pocket. Roman Kopylov wants to strike. He's an excellent striker, right? Most of the guys that fight Roman Kopylov don't want to strike with him, so they take him down. As a result, he spent a lot of time in Dagestan. He goes specifically to Dagestan, works on his wrestling so that he can keep these fights standing. Fair. Now he's presented with a 36-year-old guy who's definitely a good kickboxer, but can't wrestle. Doesn't have this deep ground game. Well, look at his list of opponents, right? Josh Frem had wrestled in college, right? He's from a good gym. Anthony Hernandez is an absolute monster of a grappler, and he did actually decent in that fight. Puelejanes Soriano, who, by the way, Kopylov took him down.
He
took him down.
You're reaching.
And he's like a high school. He's a high school state champ from Hawaii.
Oh, come on. But we've mocked that. We've mocked that before on this.
He's not good. He's not good. He's not good. He's not good. He also took down Albert Duraev, who is a good wrestler. But again, he's taken so many guys that wanted to take him down that I don't think you've ever seen him be able to go the game plan of, hey, watch how I can transition my own offensive kickboxing into my mixed martial arts. There's a reason he's not kickboxing. He's an MMA fighter. And at some point, you got to use the full arsenal of your skills. So I think he's a good striker. I think he's a solid striker. Would I want to see him strike with Almeida for the entirety of the bout? No. But I think that once you get Almeida comfortable that he's going to overextend, he's going to make a mistake, he's going to get caught in this idea that it's a striking match. And when he makes that mistake, that's when you take him down. Smother him up against the cage. Do some work there. Again, Anthony Hernandez, dude, absolute beast. And when you look at Fluffy Hernandez's fights, he took down Edmund Shabazian down 6 times. Marc-Andre Barrio down 8 times. Josh Friend down 8 times. Jung Young Park down 6 times. Machine with Kopylov, he only took him down 3 times. He took him down 3 times on 14 attempts.
Because he subbed him in the second round, though.
Watch the end of the first round, dude. He's got them all on wobbly legs. It's like, god damn. The Claudio Ribeiro fight, they're swinging like it's a high-paced fight. His fight with not Rodolfo Vieira. His fight with, what's his name? Yeah, I guess you're going to make fun of Soriano again, but it was a brutal beating, dude. Like, the guy at least shown to that point of his career that he had some durability. Doesn't have any durability anymore. But Kopylov is like the guy that broke him. So I hear what you're saying. Maybe they're not the most impressive wins to you, but to me, Kopylov starts 0-2 in the UFC. He loses his first 2 fights. He gasses out, and he cannot wrestle. That's the theme in his first 2 fights. Since then, he knocks out Di Chirico in the 3rd round. Cardio looked awesome. The Soriano fight, not a great opponent, but he looked awesome. The Claudio fight, he got stanked at the end of the 1st round, but knocks him out in the 2nd round. Solid performance, landed pretty good. Josh Frem knocks out Josh Frem. You see his cardio's better. His maturity level's better. A loss to Fluffy Hernandez. I'm really not going to hold that. What would Fluffy Hernandez do against Cesar Almeida? Serious question. First rounder, Niko.
Of course, yeah, it would be the same
Second
thing.
round, absolute domination. Tire this guy out and smash him from short elbows from half guard. Be absolute domination. At least Kopylov showed 3 for 14 on takedowns. He stuffed 9 of them. He can wrestle. He's just not been in a fight where that would be the best game plan to benefit his game. You're not going to try to offensively take down Fluffy. You're going to try to keep Frem standing so you can knock him out. I want to keep Claudio Ribeiro standing so I can knock him out. I want to keep Soriano standing so I can knock him out. I want to keep Di Chirico standing so I can knock him out. In this case, it's like I might not want to keep this guy standing. Why not take him down? So I don't know, dude. Like, if I was his strategist or his head coach, I'd be like, certainly consider it being a game plan. And if you actually are going to Dagestan, you're putting in the work. I see the results. He's stuffing legit takedowns. All solid stuff. But yeah, again, Cesar's got to win over Pereira. It's from like 11 years ago. But not to discredit him, he's got 2 losses to Alex Pereira and a win. Fought him 3 times. In both of the losses to Pereira, he went to decision. And he fought Donovan Weiss twice. Donovan Weiss is the current Glory champion. It's like a 10-fight winning streak. And both times he went to decision with him. Second time it was a majority. So homie can kickbox. And he's got cardio for days. But even that's 6 years ago. 5 years ago. So, yeah, I don't want to be an ageist because they're middleweights. You know, they're big enough guys that speed doesn't... You're not relying on it as much as the lower weight class guys. But... Again, god damn it, dude. Just why not fight the best game plan suited for winning a fight? If Kopylov does that, he's totally live to cash. But at 2-1, no chance would I want him. A plus 105? Short dog money?
Kopylov?
Yeah, that's where I would take it.
Kopylov's 33, bro. I know he looks like Russian Chase Hooper, but he's not exactly a prospect by any stretch of the imagination at this point. He is.
No, I'm not saying he is.
Probably a completed package. And what I'm going to say is this seems like the time for us to take our shoey bet.
So I'll put a goddamn deal.
We're in? Deal?
Yeah, we're in at 50-50, right? This fight's
50-50.
Yeah. I'm in. I'll back Kopylov to the tune of a shoey bet. My money, to a lesser extent, he's going to be on the PRP all day. I'm backing him. He's going to be on the PRP. But like, to how much confidence do you have on him? Yeah, middling amounts of confidence. But to bet a shoey bet for Paul Shaughnessy, who I've just won a shoey bet off of, you're goddamn right, I'll take it.
Oh, I've backed Kopylov in a lot of I didn't back him against Fluffy because I thought Fluffy was just going to do what Fluffy does.
Fluffy's a killer.
Yeah. But like I backed him, I believe, in like most of those other spots. He's always in closely lined fights, so that's how it gets my action. But no, I've backed him quite a bit. I just haven't really seen enough wrestling out of him to feel good about him in this matchup. But we will find out.
Wait till Saturday. We
will find out. If he shows up in a singlet, I could be in big trouble. And you could be seeing... Hear that shake? You could see the gold chain back next week. Moving on down.
I'll tell you what, you'll have a quick out though, because as he walks down to the cage and as they come and they do that zoom up shot and they start putting the Vaseline on his face before he enters the cage, you can still bet till that point. That point, you'll see there's 3 guys behind him and they all got beards, but none of them got mustaches.
Could be problems.
I think you take a little Kopylov action because again, that's the game plan, dude. That's the way to approach it.
I will be sweating if that's the situation that plays out. 100%. All right, we got Grant Dawson taking on Joe Solecki, minus 520 for Grant Dawson, plus 400 for Joe Solecki. I parlayed Grant Dawson with Bassil Hafez like about a week ago. The numbers are way off from where they are now. I mean, I think this is just Grant Dawson, obviously, got a little bit exposed last time out, but like this is a very, very solid matchup for him. We know he's putting in the work. We know that the grappling and the cardio is on point. Biggest question mark seems to be his chin, his ability to take damage. And Joe Solecki doesn't really bring that to the table. Grant Dawson's very, very physical. But I think if this fight just stays standing for 15 minutes and grappling gets negated, I think Grant Dawson is just able to put up way more volume and win this fight pretty cleanly. So that's why I added him to a parlay. But like he was like minus 350 when I added him to that parlay. And then Bassil Hafez was like minus 280 when I add them to the parlay. So it's like those numbers kind of keep growing. And I feel like a lot like the question marks, I suppose, get a little bit increased. But I like this fight. I like this stylistic matchup for Grant Dawson to get back on track. What about you?
Yeah, I'm totally going to agree on that. I think stylistically, it's two guys that would prefer to grapple. Joe Solecki likes to establish some top control, take the back, use some flashy jiu-jitsu. There's not as much like substance to it. It's more like traditional jiu-jitsu versus combat jiu-jitsu. And combat jiu-jitsu is what his opponent Grant Dawson mostly thrives in. Get those hard, rugged takedowns, grind on your opponent, ground and pound him. If the back opens up, take it, sure. But then when you do take it, flatten him out and be mean. Joe Solecki's looking to slink the arm under the chin, get the choke. My thing with Solecki, still only 30 years old, is that, again, he's not a guy that's going to be making any improvements. He was a hotly contested prospect a little bit back in the day. Again, you could still you could still call him a nah, you can't call him a prospect. Those days are gone. He was a decent prospect back in the day. He has Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, solid grappling, not physically strong, but nice technique. Not great striking, not great wrestling. So again, a Chase Hooper type, your jiu-jitsu's good, but you got to either learn how to wrestle to get the fight to the ground or learn how to strike so there's something you can do in the intermediate. In Solecki's case, I didn't see it out of him. Nice win over Jim Miller, if you remember that fight. Mostly just backpack scenario, right? He outstrikes Jim Miller 19-11. The fight had almost nothing happen. It's quality victory on paper. If it's a slow jiu-jitsu match, that's where he can do good. If you're looking to rough him up, it becomes problematic. His fight with Jared Gordon, he gets 4 takedowns early. Okay, so he gets his takedowns. But Gordon, as we know, is a guy that's just not going anywhere. He's not particularly the most talented guy, but he ain't going anywhere. And the longer the fight goes, Solecki, I wouldn't say he got the quit in him. It's just he doesn't have the technique, doesn't have the physical strength. It's 1-1 going into the third. His coach is just yelling at him. Like, first round, he dominates with the back take. Second round, he can't get the takedown, so he gets boxed up. Third round, he can't get the takedown, so he just starts charging forward and just swinging for the fences as like a plan B because he knows he's losing the fight. But to me, it's problematic. The striking's no good. The wrestling's no good. Jared Gordon's a good wrestler. He's not a great wrestler. So now you got to go back to the drawing board after that loss and reinvent yourself. I just haven't seen it from him. His fight with Alex Da Silva, again, he gets the takedown. He neutralizes him. But by the numbers, he got outstruck 35-33 and he got knocked down. Got caught clean, got put down, recovers. But it's like, okay, Alex Da Silva had some moments. You won a majority decision because somebody scored it a 10-8 round on the count of the knockdown. Wasn't a clear-cut victory. Carl Deaton, shit. I love Carl Deaton, right? He's the Ishinobe kid. But the main thing is that he's 0-2 in the UFC and has had a very journeyman-type, lackluster MMA career. So to backpack him for a couple rounds and eventually get a rear naked choke. And in that fight, the whole first round, the commentators are like, damn, dude, Deaton's actually still in this fight? Like, Solecki's been on his back for 4 minutes. Like, they're applauding Deaton for just simply not getting finished. And then the second round, he does get finished, but it's like that's where he's at. So the Drakkar Klose fight, again, it's honestly the same blueprint as a lot of these other fights. Quick takedown, quick back take, looks for the rear naked, looks for the rear naked. The striking numbers are 2-1. Okay, he was out getting struck by Drakkar Klose 2 strikes to 1. The fight's almost 2 minutes in. He has the back for like 90 full seconds. 1 significant strike landed. That's not my style. That I don't want to bet that. And if I'm a judge ringside, especially in a live venue, I'm not getting behind that. So again, it's like now it's up to him to go and reinvent himself. What can you do? He ends up getting slammed, getting knocked out. It's kind of a freak finish, but all the same, it's like he shows you that hot flash, that jiu-jitsu hot flash early, and then there's nothing more than that. But he's actually like one of the head coaches, I think, over at Jim O in North Carolina, and he like spends a lot of his time working with the guys there. He's gotten to a point where he's not traveling out for camps. He's just like a coach. Teaches some seminars, teaches some personal one-on-one work, does some health exercises, has a team of amateurs and stuff and pros that he, goes in corners. Like he has a life outside of fight. He's only 30. He's not washed. He can still make a serious run at it in MMA. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Gym O is one of the top gyms, if not the top gym in the state. All good shit. But it's like his head's not 100% in it anymore. And as a result, the skills that he's required to go to that next level are not updated themselves. It's a game where it's constantly being updated. New techniques, new game plans, new theories, new ways of training. Like anything, the athletes from 20 years ago are not going to be as good as the guys now because technology and just the advancement of anything So Solecki, he's still young. It's just he's not advancing the skills proper. Dawson, meanwhile, Dawson would have been looked at as like a legit top prospect, even though he's 30 as well. He was on a nice little run there. Beats Jared Gordon. You want to talk about a Jared Gordon that slapped Joe Solecki silly? Grant Dawson puts it on him, man. Took him down 7 times and choked him out in the third round. Nice. Mark Madsen fight. This guy's an Olympic silver medalist. Okay, takes him down twice, drops him, takes him down twice, subs him with a rear naked choke. Damn, dude. Damir Ishmagulov. Oh, shit. He's a gatekeeper to the stars. If you're a top 10 guy, you go through your Ishmagulov, who, by the way, is near impossible to put away. Grant Dawson takes him down 3 times, threw a couple submission attempts in there, won now 3 rounds against Damir. Guy's the man. And then Bobby Green flash knocks him out. Wow, Paul, you know as well as I do. That's the game sometimes. Something lands, you got toppled over. That Jonathan St. Pierce fights Joe Lozon in his debut. Cooked over. Ends up having a pretty solid chin. Ricky Simone fought Uriah Faber. Like, just topples over in the most embarrassing fashion ever. Got a solid chin on him. It's like, you can get caught. Happens. Doesn't take away from the overall skill set. So, I don't think he's chinny. I think he got caught. People will say, well, Bobby's not a huge power puncher. That's fair. But also, look at guys that Bobby's fought, Jim Miller types that didn't get finished, but took a beating, right? Mm-hmm. Bobby can pop. Bobby popped him in the face. He took 10 months off in between. Let your brain heal. Work all your other skills. American top team. All great things. He comes into this spot against Joe Solecki, and if he wants to keep it standing, I think he's a better striker than Solecki. Wrestling-wise, Solecki's not going to take him down. He could pull guard, start fishing for a triangle, start fishing for whatever the hell he wants. To me, it doesn't matter because, again, you go back to Grant Dawson versus Leo Santos back in the day. Leo Santos is a problem on the ground. And that's a greasy-ass fight. Dawson knocks him on the third, but he's comfortable grappling, especially from a top position. So I think, personally, he'll be fine just taking Solecki down, ground and pounding him. If Solecki happened to get that quick takedown, happened to take his back, there's been worse guys than Dawson that have survived having Solecki on their back for 4 or 5 minutes. So if need be, get out of the round. Second and third round, you go back to putting it on him. This is a Grant Dawson type fight. I like it. I like it a lot, considering what we're working with on this card. And it's minus 550, ridiculous. Probably chase an over on that just because stylistically they're both grapplers. Dawson likes to grind. Solecki's a black belt, so he shouldn't give up an easy submission. Knockout, shit, he just got slammed on his head. But again, freak type of issue or situation. Over 2.5 is minus 200. That's not a good price tag either.
No.
I don't know, dude. I don't know what you can do with this fight. You pick Grant Dawson, throw him on some parlays. Other than that, I don't know what you can do with it. It's
tough at this point. I grabbed it a little bit early, but yeah, as I said right at the beginning,
money's
it's like
pouring in.
As the money pours in, it's just like, is there very much meat on the bone at this point? Because there is the possibility that like Solecki gets back position in 2 different types of in 2 rounds. He's able to get to the back, hold position, even if he doesn't get the submission. It's just like, if someone takes your back and holds onto your back, there's literally nothing the ref can do. It's just like you have to fight.
They'll never stand it up, ever.
Never, and they shouldn't, because it's like you're in a very, very disadvantageous position. So that's definitely on the table, I suppose. But is that a 15 to 20% outcome? Probably at most. So yeah, it's tough to say where it's at. But sounds like we both like Dawson, but at minus 520. There isn't very much meat on the bone there. All right, we got Jake Matthews taking on Phil Rowe. Minus 160 for Matthews, plus 140 for Rowe. Who do you like here, Cody?
Actually, Paul been trying to tell me this for like years. He'd be like, dude, Jake Matthews is low key, like not good. Like he's just not good. And he's always a big favorite. And if you can get plus money fading him, you just do it. Paul, I don't know, man. Sounds a little crazy. Then all his losses, geez, he was a minus 200 favorite over James Vick when he lost. He was a minus 150 favorite over Kevin Lee when he lost. He was a minus 500 favorite over Andrew Holbrook when he lost. He was a minus 150 favorite over Anthony Rocco Martin when he lost. He was an underdog, rightfully so, to Sean Brady when he lost. That's the first time he's the underdog. He was a minus 300 favorite over Matthew Semmelsberger when he lost. Like,
You're forgetting about Akbarth Areola, who almost
But he won that fight.
He won it,
yeah,
but he almost damn well got finished, and he was like a minus
No.
800 favorite in that fight. He's
1,000. He was a minus 1,000 favorite.
He's a prospect who just never got to what you thought the potential was, is what it is.
And again, it's like, I think what makes our show different than everybody. This is a big pay-per-view, and people will talk about this guy's last fight, and, you know, he threw a straight right, and if he throws the same punch and the other guy uses it, it's like, you want to listen to technique. I'm sure there's other podcasts. You want to listen to certain things. It's like, we're really talking to, like, where these guys are at and where they're trending to. And it is a lot of narrative, but I guess that's what makes us different. We just talked about a Joe Solecki, like he's caught in this rut. And there's certain guys, like, yeah, oh, he's 34, he's 35, he's 36, he's adding new skills. I'm all for that. There's young guys that just aren't going to add those skills. They're not going to improve. Jake Matthews is that case in point. This is going to be his 20th UFC fight. Like, is it crazy that he's been in the organization that long? Sounds like just like the other day, he was on The Ultimate Fighter, Canada versus Australia. You know, the only decent looking prospect from Team Australia, 19 years old, signs at the UFC. In that time, Paul, he's gone 12-7. He's only had 19 fights to this. This will be his 20th, but he's 12-7 over that time. As we listed out his 7 UFC losses, 5 times he was the betting favorite. One time as a minus 500, one time as a minus 300, and as you mentioned, the Akbarth fight, within a skin of losing, and he was a minus 1,000 favorite. Now, you can always say, wow, those are years ago. He's still only 29. He's still getting better. He's still improving. He's got the jiu-jitsu. His father was a kickboxing champion. You can see he's definitely implementing a lot more kickboxing to his game. But again, he's a small fish in a, he's a big fish in a small pond. He never really left the confines of Australia, kind of stayed down there, kind of let his dad run his gym. There's no problem with that, but it'll only get you so far. And Sage Northcutt has got a lot of skill. The dude is very freakishly athletic, standing cartwheel front flip like nothing, moves like a breeze. He's got like 25 plus years of high-level karate experience. You know, his jiu-jitsu is solid enough for what it is. Could he have not become a champion? Maybe with the right guidance, but when you're stuck in the confines of, he went to Alpha Male and he was like, it's too tough here. So his dad was like, you know what, let's pull him out. And they brought him to TriStar. He spent like 3 weeks at TriStar and he got chin checked in the gym and his dad yanked him out and they brought him back to Caddy, Texas, where he went to Gracie Baja Caddy. And his career just fanned out. Like, you got to surround yourself with not the best coaches, the best training partners, but bodies and guys that are going to push you to the next level. Matthews looks as good years ago as he does now. Yeah, he's added a little more kickboxing. He looks a little more muscular. Doesn't fight at 155 anymore. He fights at 170. Like, you know, physically he's matured a little bit. But overall, he used to rely on just power wrestling because his technique's not great for his offensive wrestling, but just power wrestling, take you down, solid ground game, you know, good level purple belt. And then it was like, yeah, you know, this guy's a good level brown belt. No point is it like, damn, dude, if Matthews takes you down, you got problems. It's just that's where he prefers to take the fights. And then as you start to fight better guys, or guys are updating their own skills, harder to take guys down now in the UFC than it's ever been at any other point in human history or in the history of the UFC. Takedown defense has really gone a long way. People know how to use the cage now. So he's relying on, I need to be a better striker. But again, he's not a great striker. His chin's not great. There's too many flaws in his game overall. So you look at his just last recent run, because he has 20 fights in the UFC. You can't go through all of them. There's tons of these moments where he looks shaky. But we just got to look at recent history. So look at like the last 3. The Matthew Semmelsberger fight, okay? It's another fight where he's a 3-1 favorite. He should just take down Matthew Semmelsberger. Why would you not? Why would you not? The guy's tall, gangly, wants to just bang it out on the feet. You're a better wrestler. You're a better grappler. You're a jiu-jitsu guy. You're a submission guy. Take him down. He actually got taken down by Semmelsberger 3 times. And then when the fight was standing, he'd get a little bit of success going. He'd just drop his hands. No footwork. Not cutting any angles. Not wadding in. Just literally plod straight into his shot. Floors him. He got dropped 3 times. Went to decision. He got knocked down 3 times by Semmelsberger. Taken down 3 times by Semmelsberger. Loses a pretty clean fight. It's a bad look. Rebounds against Darius Flowers, but that's what it is. It's a rebound fight. In his whole career, the vast majority of his wins, Darius Flowers, cut. Andre Fiallo, cut. Diego Sanchez, retired for good reason. Emil Meek, cut. Rostam Akhman, only guy in the UFC history they let wear a shirt into a fight in the cage. Ridiculous. Shinzo Anzai, Jingliang Li, that's a nice one. But that's a nice one 15 fights back, dude. 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago, he got eye gouged by Jingliang Li. It's a long time. Jingling Li's gotten a lot better since then. Matthews hasn't. So that's kind of where I'm at with them. Now, how does he match up with Rowe? Because we're taking a dog shot here on Phil Rowe. So Rowe's actually a black belt, and like he's a competition black belt. He'll go to jiu-jitsu tournaments. He'll try to grapple the best guys. He does not do good against the best guys, but he's willing to jump in the fire and go with the best grapplers on the planet. He trains out of Fusion XL in Orlando, but again, Ralph Vieira's in the gym. He's got Ronaldo Jacare Souza's in the gym. That fraud Cuban guy, Alex Nicholson, Mike Perry. Like, they got a cast of guys. Phil Rowe's getting working, but he's got an 80-inch reach, dude. 80-inch reach. And he got a big old long jab on him. Volume, it should be higher. You've seen it. It's not really good, to be honest with you, but his career high 84 against Leon Shabazian. But he's got that ability to just keep you on the outside with your jab, okay? Matthews, meanwhile, Matthews super low. He's had 19 fights in the UFC. His career high 72. In 19 fights, the most he ever landed is 72. And that's against Diego Sanchez, like 7 years ago, 6 years ago. So his volume's not there to me. Rowe, meanwhile, not high volume, but the reach advantage is as such that if they're both standing in a large cage with tons of space to operate in, and Matthews isn't charging forward, he's not throwing combinations, he's not throwing tons of volume, he's not throwing power, then he's getting touched up from the jab. He's getting outworked ever so slightly from the outside from Rowe. He shoots the takedown, which would be wise from him, okay? Rowe's not easy to take down because he's so goddamn tall. Good wrestlers are going to take him down, but look how exhausted those guys get from taking him down. Orion Koski took him down twice, gassed out and got knocked out. Jason Witt took him down 4 times, gassed out, got knocked out. He never got taken down by Niko Price. He never got taken down by Neil Magny. The guy's not that bad of a grappler. And I think that's going to pose Matthews problems because his whole career has been mostly he can win with a bit of grappling. If Rowe can neutralize it, and not even neutralize it, but maybe even exceed it, that's going to be a problem for him. As far as the stand-up goes, the 6-inch reach advantage, the 7-inch reach advantage that he's got, that jab, that slightly better volume, that durability, I like Rowe. And Rowe's chin-checked Orion Koski, knocked him out. He chin-checked Jason Witt, knocked him out. He chin-checked Niko Price in the 3rd round, lost the first 2, knocks him out in the 3rd round. He can pop for a big, tall guy. Matthews got dropped 3 times by Semmelsberger. To me, that durability is not necessarily there. He struggles against big, tall guys like he struggled against Semmelsberger. His grappling's not better than Rowe's. His wrestling's really not better than Rowe's. His striking's not better than Rowe's. And he's the favorite in this fight. And he's shit as a favorite in fights in 5 of his 7 losses. So I would take Phil Rowe. I got Phil Rowe.
Yeah, you didn't have to talk about it for 15 minutes for me to agree with you that Jake Matthews as a favorite in this type of spot. Phil Rowe on top of that, you didn't really talk about it, but it's being able to make the fight ugly, close, and competitive against Neil Magny, who is a proven veteran of the game, and just keeping the volume way down. It wasn't pretty by any stretch of the imagination, but if you have that type of fight, and I'm holding a plus 140 ticket, and it goes down to decision, and it's 50-50, I'll take that 10% edge on that any day of the week. That was a 50-50 fight. He ended up losing the decision, but it was damn close. Never been a Matthews guy. I've never been able to get the taste of the Akbarth areola knockdown out of my mind. Just not Jake Matthews, the Celtic Kid, not my guy. Never will be. All right, we got Alex Morono taking on Niko Price. Alex Morono minus 250 favorite. Niko Price can be had for plus 210. What are we doing with this one, Cody? Because everything might be, I know that Niko Price is kind of washed, but it's how does Alex Morono lose fights? When he does, he gets knocked out. It's that's about all that Niko can do at this stage. I don't know. I'm tempted, Cody. Talk me off the ledge.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go with the Niko Price direction too. But again, it's a lot of narrative because he's washed, dude. He's washed. Not washed in the sense that he shouldn't be operating or shouldn't be fighting, but his days of an elite level competitor, his days of a top 15, top 10 guy, and that's all kind of gone. And similar to a Vicente Luque, who I think is trending towards washed, maybe not quite 100, but trending in that direction, is that like once your durability leaves you, it's a problem, man, because you make a career on taking all these shots moving forward. And Brian Barberena used to do it. Vicente Luque used to do it. Niko Price used to do it. And you see that once that durability leaves them, they're just not the same guys. We talked about it in the main event, or co-main event, sorry, with Sean Strickland. It'll happen to him someday. It just hasn't yet. When you look at Niko, it has. It 100% has. And you date back to the Phil Rowe fight, right? He is a close fight. Well, not a close fight, but he outlands Phil Rowe 110-63. He gets taken down. He survives it. He gets back up. Dude's got a win over Michel Pereira, not a win over Michel Pereira, but same thing in the Pereira fight. Loses the first round, comes back hard in the second and the third. His fight with Vicente Luque, he landed 129, got landed on 130. His fight with Donald Cerrone, landed 150, got landed on 113. It's just too much damage. So gets knocked down in the third round against Phil Rowe in a fight he's otherwise about to win, which is tough to deal with because his style is predicated on doing that. And doing that is winning the fight. And then doing that loses him the fight. So now your style, your primary tactic, what you do best, maybe ain't the path anymore. So he takes the Robbie Lawler fight. Robbie's just an aged veteran. Robbie, one of the very few guys, announces his retirement before the fight and wins. And just crushes him. Would he have crushed Niko Price a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Don't think so. Niko Price used to eat punches like sandwiches. The version of him now, yeah, not necessarily. But yeah, Morono's not some big power puncher. And beyond that, you can't take away from Niko is he's got sickening volume. He landed 129 on Vicente Luque. He landed 150 on Donald Cerrone. 76 on Pereira, who's a tough guy. Took him down 3 times. He landed 110 on Phil Rowe. The volume's there. His cardio's not as good as it used to be. His durability's not as good as it used to be. But he'll throw a ton of shots. And Morono's not that guy. He just barely squeaked by Court McGee 29-28. That's massively concerning. He got outstruck by McGee 60-38. He almost got doubled up at Court McGee. Court McGee, Paul. And like wins the fight, but just kind of people had said, well, it felt like he was taking it easy on Court. Like he felt for Court. Like Court can't beat anybody in the UFC at this current stage in time. It's a layup for Morono, and he felt bad, so he took it easy. I don't know if I believe that. He looked spirited against Joaquin Buckley, but then got hurt the longer the fight went, got tired the longer the fight went. To me, it seemed like the McGee fight, he was going through the motions. 38. Okay, that Buckley fight, 15-minute fight. He lands 40. His fight with Ponzinibbio, it went to the third round, got knocked out in that fight. He was doing good, got knocked out. He had landed 38. So he's super low volume. Can probably hit decent, and Price's chin may be all the way gone, but I'm not necessarily buying into this idea that Morono just absolutely cooks him with the first shot he lands. So Price has got to get his cardio and his conditioning up so that he can keep up that pace, not get tired and not get sloppy, not make that mistake. But I think he just goes up on the punch stats. I think Morono knows the same thing you know, the same thing I know, the same thing all the listeners of the show knows, the same thing everybody breaking down the fight knows. Everybody's on the same page. Niko Price can't really take a punch anymore. So if you're Morono, the whole game plan is you'll land something at some point. The guy can't take a punch. So you get waiting for that perfect punch to land. You don't get into this brawl. You don't make it happen. You don't force the opening because you wait for the opening. And again, it could work. He could get doubled up on the striking numbers and lose 2 of the 3 rounds and drop a decision. Or Niko hits like a goddamn hammer as well. Maybe Niko puts him away. These guys do have a little bit of rapport. Niko Price fought Alex Morono back in 2017, right? So it's a rematch that's like 7 years later. And then in that fight, if you watch it, Morono's putting it on him in the first round, doing pretty good. Second round, Morono's putting it on him, but like not as good. And then the buzzer goes, and Niko Price just absolutely guns him, and he folds up next to the cage. The buzzer goes, and it looks like he's sitting on his stool, but he's completely unconscious on 2 knees up against the cage. It was savage. It was savage. Run it back 7 years later, they've both had a lot of mileage. They've both been in there. Niko knows mentally, yeah, this guy's going to come in and knock me out is the narrative, but he's the one that's already knocked out Morono. He's got enough power to do it again. Power's the last thing to go. He's got superior volume than him. He competes against at least high-level guys, whereas Morono's competing against largely journeymen. This is totally live underdog, and it's like a sizable underdog. So, yeah dude, I think we like a lot of the same underdogs, which is could be good thing, could be bad thing. But bottom line is you're seeing the same thing I'm seeing, and I'm agreeing, dude. There's legitimate path of victories for these guys. The numbers make sense. I got Niko Price.
Yeah, no, I just think it's tough to back. I mean, especially after that court fight. I mean, court on top of that, court had historically been very, very durable, but we had kind of seen like the chink in the armor for that as well. So it's like to show up against court and have a really, really poor decision, a decision that he should have lost in a lot of people's scorecards. It was just a really bad look, which kind of leads you to believe that Alex Morono probably over the hill. All right, moving on down, we've got Bassil Hafez taking on Mickey Gall, minus 350 for Hafez, plus 280 for Gall. This was one that I circled a long time ago, and I was a little bit disappointed when they first opened the line because I was just like, it shows you kind of how much better the books have gotten. Because like I backed Bassil Hafez against Jack Della, but he was like a 6-1 underdog. It was a massive, massive underdog spot. And just because like watching some of his fights on the regional scene, it's just a hard-nosed wrestler. He's going to stick to a game plan. He's able to go 3 rounds. He seems durable. And he gave Jack Della, who, I mean, is a top 10 guy in this division, he gave him fits in a whole bunch of spots there. Did he lose? Yes. But he made it damn interesting. A lot more interesting than a lot of people thought he was going to make it on that night. I think his style, what we know about him, hard-nosed wrestler, good grappler, don't believe he's ever been finished. I think he's absolute cancer for what Mickey Gall wants to do. Mickey Gall, not a great striker, doesn't have too much pop in his strikes. He is a submission specialist, but if Bassil Hafez takes him down, hangs out in guard, and just sits there, is he going to be able to catch him in something? I don't think so. So I agree with him being a big favorite. I was just hoping that this was going to be like, I was hoping it's going to be like minus 200 when I had like as soon as I saw it get booked, I was hoping it was going to be like a lot more exploitable of a line. But yeah, the books are a little bit sharper these days. It is what it is. But Bassil Hafez, rightful favorite for me. Never, I mean, outside of like CM Punk, never really been a Mickey Gall guy. Never really been a Mickey.
Well, yeah, I mean, how could you be? Like, it's a sport where you want these guys to earn their way, and there's so many good fighters that don't make it to the UFC that they earn their way since the UFC never came calling. So, yeah, I don't think anybody ever liked Mickey Gall because he got his chance to fight in the UFC based on nothing. Like, right place, right time. He wins his first pro fight, a pro debut. He wins on the regional scene. Dana happens to be sitting cage side because they're filming a Dana White looking for a fight. He knows he can't beat anybody on the roster. He knows he can't beat the worst. He knows he wouldn't last one round versus the worst guy on the roster. So what do? Dana's sitting there. Who the hell are you going to call out? CM Punk. And to call out CM Punk to me is a bit of a joke because you get into this journey, you're a martial artist and you want to test yourself. And I understand it's like, wow, it's an easy fight and it's a high profile fight. Those are the reasons why you should take the fight. But to call out a guy that's 40 and is like, this is his second career bucket list type thing. Like, let them pick who he's going to fight. Who are you to call this multimillionaire guy out that just wants to do it for fun? It's not a real call out. They give it to him. Well, after first he fights Mike Jackson. Joke. Total joke of a fight. Then he fights CM Punk. Joke. Total joke of a fight. And therein lies the catch-22 of what happens to him. Is that basically ruins his career. The thing that makes his career subsequently also ruins it. Because once he gets that Mike Jackson fight out of the way and the CM Punk fight out of the way, there's quite literally nothing left on the roster for him. And they struggled mightily to match him up. His other fights, Sage Northcutt, it's a bit of a freak show fight. George Sullivan, my boy, 39, broken down, never fought in the UFC again. Salim Touari, Jordan Williams, like they try to match him as soft as they could. But the small step ups, Randy Brown, fringe 15 guy, Diego Sanchez, washed to bits, Mike Perry, what's interesting about that fight is Perry absolutely out-grappled him the entire time. He took him down and dominated him in a grappling match. It was a fight, but it wasn't stand-up. It wasn't a bare-knuckle boxing match. Perry dominated him on the ground. So he's a black belt. Signed to the UFC originally, he was 24 years old. He was a brown belt. Since then, he's been promoted, but his jiu-jitsu is really not all that good. It's like opportunistic. He hits you with a quick submission. He submitted Sage Northcutt. Go back and rewatch that fight. He doesn't submit Sage Northcutt when he does. He's done. He's cooked. He's gassed. He's sloppy. His striking's no good. His wrestling's no good. His jiu-jitsu, which is his bread and butter, is really not all that good. At least one-dimensional bread and butter guys like we talked about earlier, Joe Solecki, or we talked about a couple weeks ago, a guy like Ronnie Yaya, a guy like Paul Craig. Like if you only have the one thing, that's literally the only thing you have, you better be goddamn good at it. Those guys are pretty good at it. That's not the case here with Mickey Gall. Like he's a grappler, but he's not a good grappler. So loses to Mike Mulata's last time out, and then there's a 2-year gap. And that's the only thing that's interesting to me is that Mickey Gall should have never been signed to the UFC, right? He should have gone through the LFA circuit, and he should have ended up with a 10-4 record for LFA, and then got a sniff on the Contender Series as a 29-year-old. Then maybe beat a guy there, and then came into the fold and fought a couple other Contender Series guys. But because he made that big name from himself and start getting paid some decent money, he has to take bigger fights. He has to take tougher fights. He's never had a chance to properly develop. But when you look at his debut in the UFC, it's 2016. He fought 3 times in the UFC in 2016. He fought once in 2017, once in 2018, twice in 2019, twice in 2020, twice in 2021, one fight his last time out in 2022. Now there's a 2-year gap. So for the first time ever, he's like taken some time away, taken some time aside from the sport. And in theory, he's 32. I don't think he's a prospect anymore. I never thought he was good to begin with. But in theory, yeah, here's a guy that actually could come back as a better version than the last time you saw him. In theory. Bassil Hafez, and you've seen this. How many times have you seen this? Guy debuts in the short notice in the UFC, and just, it's a banger of a performance. It's his debut. It's short notice. He's a big underdog. He rocks out. Then in his second fight, he's the big favorite all of a sudden. Because even though he lost, it was a gritty-ass performance. And, you know, Chris Moutinho lost to Sean O'Malley, but now they're getting him an absolute layup versus a 43-year-old Argentinian guy. You know what happened? 43-year-old Argentinian guy blew his head off. You get trapped a lot of the time where it's like the guy lost and maybe isn't all that good, but you overpay on him. That's the only tag concern I got here. Is I'm expecting a slightly better version of Mickey Gall, and I think Hafez, it may have been one good performance, but now he's a minus 350. So now at that number, you got to be convinced that he's a really good fighter and that Mickey Gall is absolutely terrible, which is I'm conflicted about both these things. I think Hafez is good, but I don't think he's a great fighter. He's not minus 350 worthy. And Gall, as much as he is crap, the 2 years away, and a guy that has 10 plus fights in the UFC and has a little bit of money and went back to the drawing board and trains at some very good gyms. Like, it's not crazy to think that he could be okay. Now, jiu-jitsu wise, they're both black belts, right? So Hafez is physically stronger, should be able to muscle Gall to the ground, but it's not like Gall's a fish out of water there. Hafez's cardio is awful. Yeah, he's short notice, but he's physically muscular. So he comes out and he ragdolls Mickey Gall around, but doesn't knock him out, doesn't submit him, and tires himself out. And now Gall ends up on top. Gall has that one small opportunity to make something happen. It could be a problem. You know, he's losing to Jordan Williams. He gets on top of him. He chokes him out. He capitalized. His fight with, I don't know, small, terrible resume. He's got an absolutely god-awful resume. But again, just like at minus 350, I don't love Hafez. Money's coming in on it. That's what's it's gotten to this point. When it got announced, just like you, it got announced, I was like, man, I'm in on this. When I seen the number, I was like, I'm not in on this. Because I got a second fight in the UFC, Bassil Hafez. He looked good against Jack Maddalena, but how much of that it was Maddalena also took the fight on a week's notice? He wasn't getting ready to fight Bassil Hafez. It's a completely different style. Now all of a sudden he's got a guy that's taking him down over and over. Whenever he got up, he boxed him up bad. He beat him up bad. And then the guy would just spam a takedown. So his striking is not great. Cardio maybe not great. He's just a power grappler. And Mickey Gall, who's not good. But what was like his one little thing that he did maybe okay? At least he's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu under David Adiva, I believe. Credible black belt. So if it's grappler versus grappler and it ends up going a few rounds, I'm not going to feel good about a minus 350 price tag. But I got other underdogs in this card, and Mickey Gall ain't one of them. I just can't bet him. As much as I know Hafez at 350 shouldn't be on my top ticket, you know, shouldn't be on my second ticket, probably ends up on the third ticket, I'm fool. But so did Ducote, right? Like, that's where they end up, because you think they're going to win. They should win. They do win, but it's a closer fight than you think, and you overpaid on it. So just a bit of buyer beware, because again, we got to sniff out who the real pie shitter is here. Could be Hafez, could be, but again, similar to earlier there's a couple guys that it could be, but I can't pull the trigger in certain spots. The dogs I got, I'm willing to ride with them. These ones, I can't force it.
All right, we got Ailin Perez taking on Joselyne Edwards. Ailin Perez is a minus 180 favorite. Edwards could be had for plus 155. We got.
Yeah, I gotta go with Ailin Perez. There's nothing secret here. Ailin seems to just kill that space, chest to chest, press you up against the cage. She's physically strong, big old caboose, tons of power generated. And yeah, I mean, if she gets on top of you, especially from half guard, she's hard to throw off. The thing with Joselyne Edwards is that they just don't seem to reward her style. She's in a lot of these fights that are very close, but they're always just super. That's exactly what they are. They're super close. 7 fights in the UFC, all 7 of them have gone to decision. Over that time, she's rocking a 4-3 record. Of that 4-3 record, 2 of them have been split decisions. So again, her fight with Jun Kim, man, could have gone either way. She wins a split. Her fight with Lucy Pudilova, she got taken down by Pudilova. Super problematic. She also may have lost that fight against Lucy Pudilova, which, Paul, is very problematic. And she squeaks out the split decision. So even though I thought she won against Nora Cornell, who she got the 5 takedowns over, she lands 18 significant strikes. There's no volume. There's no power. There's no real striking. It's her just clinging on to her opponent. Most of her fights are spent in the clinch. Either she's offensively in the clinch or defensively she's defending within the clinch. And it's super low volume on her part. She tries to muscle up a couple takedowns. She doesn't do anything with the takedowns, and it becomes super subjective to the judges. So it's hard to bet against her because the fight's probably going to go 15. It's probably going to be remotely close and competitive. Nothing's going to happen, and you got to trust that the judges get it right. And 4 times they have. 3 times they haven't. She's 4-3. It's close. It's almost basically split. When I look at Ailin Perez, we can laugh at the video versus Tamara's Vidal, and it's in the middle of nowhere. She's a go-getter, and she's strong. She likes to fight within that clinch. Her debut against Stephanie Egger. Stephanie Egger is giant. As a girl that I think won gold at the under-23 World Judo Championships back in the day. Like, quality black belt judoka, BJJ black belt, grappled Gabby Garcia at the ADCCs. That's a solid fight. And yeah, she loses, but she gave her a go, took her down. Her fight with Ashley Evans-Smith. Ashley Evans-Smith wrestled in college, wrestled in high school, wrestled in college, can wrestle, considered big for the weight class. She ragdolls her around. 10 takedowns on her. Lucy Pudilova, the same Lucy Pudilova that had out-wrestled and taken down Joselyne Edwards. She does the same thing. 2 takedowns, ragdolls her around. 42 significant strikes landed. All that from top pressure. Go, go, go. She's still young. She's still, young-ish in the game, improving, physically strong. She's going to be pressing up Edwards into the cage. She's going to be landing slightly more volume. She's going to be probably the one initiating the takedowns and getting a few of them and racking up a bit of top control time. It's a close fight. It's women's MMA. It goes 15 minutes, but they're going to get this one right, and they're going to give it to Ailin Perez. And Ailin Perez is fighting, right? It's not the prettiest work. It's grindy, blue collar. Let's get this thing down. And New Jersey crowd will appreciate that. She's out there trying to fight. Edwards, it's like when she's at range, it's just like a jab for the sake of jab because I got to do something, keep you at range. And when she's clinging onto you and she's clinching up with you, it's like short little knee to the thigh, but nothing of substance. So again, in a live setting, I feel like the crowd's going to be booing when Edwards is clinging onto her. They're going to be cheering when Perez is just trying to mad dog her and lead with her head and, go hard and try to peel her to the ground. And even though she'll allow you to stand up to land a few strikes, she'll take that risk to land a few strikes. They like that. It should get rewarded. Ailin Perez by decision.
Yeah, the only thing I will say is that round 3 Pudilova versus Ailin Perez was pretty rough, man. She took a lot, the stats don't tell the whole story there. It's round 3, she took a lot of damage. Her face was all beaten up. After, dominating rounds 1 and 2, getting the takedowns, doing what I expected to do in this matchup. It's enough that I wouldn't be feeling too great about it. I expect her to get takedowns. I expect her to get them early, control, and probably win this fight by decision. But round 3 was she started to slow down, started to look pretty mediocre, and started getting beaten up pretty bad. So that would be my only concern about Ailin Perez, and she'll be my pick, but it's am I adding her to in big confidence types of spots? Is she one of the favorites on the card that I feel best about? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. But I think the takedowns will be there for her. and she'll get her arm raised. All right, and finally we got Andre Lima taking on Mitch Raposo. Andre Lima minus 250 favorite, and Raposo could be out for plus 210. Andre Lima, famously the only person to ever get a I got bit bonus from Dana White.
Fight of the night.
Fight of the night. Or bite of the night, yes. Bite of the night. He got like a tattoo after the fact, too. What a strange thing that was. I mean, I was on, what was the kid's name? The Hannibal Lecter kid. What was his name now? I can't even remember.
Severino.
I knocked it out of my brain because like it looked like Severino was starting to come on. I'd bet him as a decent-sized underdog there. And then for God knows what reason, he ruins his entire career by biting his opponent's arm. And like at first I was like, what is going on here? What type of nonsense is going on? And then they cut to his arm and it's just like, well, those are teeth marks. It's pretty obvious that he bit him. Yeah, we bet real money on these things, Cody. We bet real money on these things. Do you have a hard take on Raposo versus Lima? This is the one fight I haven't really put too much thought into yet. What about you?
Yeah, last week or 2 weeks ago, I guess I keep forgetting we had an off week, but the Cardinalosi fight, like I can't take any credit on that. She won.
Oh yeah,
but it wasn't like it was a bad call. It was a bad call on my part. She looked awful. She gassed out immediately when her cardio was supposed to be there for her. But there's zero mind. If you're sitting at home thinking it should have been no contest, or you're thinking she didn't mean to do it, zero question this girl intended. She smashed her in the face with 2 headbutts on purpose and deserved to get disqualified. And just for I was on the right side of it for the first time. Because normally, I'm on the other side of it. And I was with Severino. I had him. It wasn't like he was coming on. Dude, he did good in the first round. He had 4 takedowns in the first. Was mad dogging him. In the second, it looked like Lima's starting to fatigue a bit. And Severino's still going at a really high pace. And he bites him. I didn't want to believe it at first. Because unlike the headbutt that you see, you couldn't see him bite him. But my 2-year-old daughter bit me the other day, and it's like a small bite, and you see the imprints. It don't take much. Whatever he did is enough to draw a reaction. That reaction, it was going to get imprinted. Why he chose to do it, I don't know. You hear people at the bars like, I could never fight because I just black out, man. I just black out. That's basically what happened. The dude just blacked out and bit somebody because he was fighting for his life in the octagon. Crazy way to lose a career, but if Paul Semtex Daly never got brought back for the sucker punch, this guy should never get brought back for biting somebody. It is what it is. As far as the fight itself, Andre Lima has tight technical kickboxing. He's a Brazilian kickboxing champion. I don't know if I'd consider him champion level, but there's so many belts out there nowadays. His kickboxing is tight and it's technical. Severino was able to wile him down to the ground a few times, but you see he's got good scrambles and good submission attempts. So he doesn't mind trying to lock up the arm, try to grab a hold of the neck. If he can't isolate the submission right away, he'll scramble and get back up. I think the scrambling and the fast nature pace of a 125-pound fight was starting to take its wear on him. Severino was fighting at a mad pace. And at 125, sometimes you're going to have to go hard 15 at that pace. I don't know that Lima was quite there, but fortunately for him, his opponent bit him, and you don't have to worry about it. Raposo, meanwhile, Raposo's a career bridesmaid, never a bride. He's been here a few times. He just can't quite seem to get over the hump. They signed him back for the Ultimate Fighter. I want to say maybe 4 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago. 3 years ago, he's on the Ultimate Fighter season 29. He fights Ludovic Shalinian. Again, a guy that's not bad by regional show standards and certainly a lot bigger than Raposo, but just not an elite level competitor. He loses the fight. They bring him on the Contender Series right after that. Give him a legitimate flyweight fight. His opponent, Jake Hadley, did miss weight by like 2 pounds. But Paul, you watch that fight, Hadley is twice the size of Raposo. Yeah. He's a flyweight, but he's a 115. He's a 115. The division doesn't exist, so he's campaigning at a higher weight class, and that's where he loses. So back to the regional scene, beats a 3-2, a 7-4, a 2-0, a 4-2. He's a southpaw. He's not getting a whole lot of action. He doesn't look like the most athletic guy going. In the Hadley fight, he's got 3 takedowns, and they're all very quick and very reactionary. But I can't say he's a natural wrestler. His athleticism isn't such that, I'm always going to be able to rely on getting these. And the thing is that physically he doesn't look all that strong. It's good timing. He takes down Hadley, great timing. Hadley just muscles his way back up because he's too big, too strong. Takes him down again. Hadley just muscles his way back up. Too big, too strong. Third time he's tired, he gives up his neck, he gets choked out. Problem. Beating guys on the regional scene, okay, that's one thing. Now you're back in the UFC. The problem with Lima is that his kickboxing, it's tight. It's tight. If Raposo comes out, southpaw stance, which he does, throws that lead left hand, sort of rinky dinks from the outside, the bigger shots are going to be coming from Lima, the more damaging shots from Lima. And again, I don't think he's got enough work rate to cleanly outwork Lima just with the striking. So what he'll try to do is mix in the takedowns. 100% he'll time it, mix in the takedowns. Again, the problem being there is that Lima's bigger, stronger than him, so you're going to exert a ton of energy. And if you do take him down, he's going to get back up. He got back up 5 times against Severino. He'll get back up if Raposo takes him down. So if he gets back up, can keep him at bay, land the better shots, I just think he squeaks out what's either a close decision or a late type finish by Lima where he catches him with something. Last but not least, Raposo's taken this fight on little over a week's notice. It's like 10 days to 2 weeks notice he's taking this fight. He does have a fight booked 3 months from now on the Contender Series. You can't tell me this guy's in the full swing of his camp and was like, yeah, let's do it. It was like, you know what? They're offering me a shot in the UFC right now. They've done this before and I lost and didn't get it. They gave me a shot on the reality show and I lost and didn't get it. Don't mess around and take the Contender Series fight again. Just take your spot in the UFC. So he's jumping premature in there with a guy that just got 50 grand, reinvested in his career, strong kid, also green, getting better. It's a problem, dude. It's a problem. I got to go with Lima to get the job done. I like Mitch Raposo, but it's not a great spot.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then just quickly to like touch up on Carnelossi is like, I'm forever grateful to her for pulling an Aljo there because it was a big swing. I had like a 10 leg parlay that has a plus 180 slap to the back end of it. She looked like she probably should have been like plus 800. Like she was getting worked. It wasn't a good play, but it's like we were fortunate. Yeah.
Front kick to the face that shattered her nose almost certainly is the blow that did all of the damage. But then now you get headbutt. They're like, how do you feel? It's like shit. What do you mean? How do I feel? I just got front kicked in the face. And it's like, well, I can't determine if you feel like shit because of the front kick or because of that headbutt. If it was one headbutt, I could say, well, it was incidental. She was trying to reestablish position. She led with her head. It was a little too tight. I gave her the warning. Gives her the warning. That's the end of it. Okay, if she couldn't continue, I could see a no contest. Even then, she complained at the first one, but she kept fighting. And then what's the girl do? She looks at the ref and like acknowledges, like, yeah. And then just drives it right down. And then she's looking at everyone like, what happened? Cut her too.
They're like, watch yourself. Watch yourself. I'm going to disqualify you. She's like, good thing I've got Carnelossi round 2 tickets in my back pocket. I mean, it was so bizarre. It was so bizarre. It's just like, that's one of the things though. It's just like, and I find it in like social media, it is what it is. But like, some people just can't watch those type. Like, they'll always complain if they're on the losing side of it, but then like they're just like, oh, plus 37 units on this, and it's just like without being able to. It's a give and take. Like, you're gonna lose some situations that you kind of feel like you get robbed on. You're gonna win situations like that. It's just like being able to be like, this is a really dumb sport that we bet on sometimes. Sometimes your fighter will be looking good and then he's just gonna bite his opponent and get disqualified. Like, crazy stuff happens all the time. So just kind of in the moment be able to be appreciative of when you are given something that you don't deserve and suck it up and just accept the fact when something that you probably looked good or was supposed to go your way doesn't go your way. That's just, you bet on fighting long enough. As I've said long ago, Cody, you bet on people stripped down to their underwear fighting in a cage for money in front of thousands of people, and crazy shit's going to happen. Anyway, we're just about out of time here, Code. Before we go hit him with the PRP.
Going with Islam Makhachev, Sean Strickland, Kevin Holland, Jailton, the Jailman Almeida. Like, I'm thinking Randy Brown, but that if anything is going to switch, that would be it. We're going to with Kopylov as dog number 1. We're going to go Grant Dawson, Phil Rowe, dog number 2, Niko Price, dog number 3, Bassil Hafez, and Ailin Perez, and Andre Lima. So, yeah, I don't know. 300 dogs on a 12-fight card doesn't sound bad. You could maybe switch and get yourself a 4th one. There's other dogs, as Paul talked about. You know, Romanov is live because it's a greasy heavyweight fight. I would say, yeah, Zaleski at plus 150 is certainly live. Cesar Almeida, well, he's the favorite now. I got Kopylov as a dog. That one's a close one. Yeah, I mean, there's dog money to be had. There's favorite money to be had. It's finding that blend of the two to hit the PRP, or at the very least, hit your first line, hit your first 2 lines, hit your first 3 lines, a couple props. Have yourself a good night. We want the big long shot ticket, but like Paul said, you can have some bad bounces here and there. So best of luck to everybody. We've got to replace the Red Dragon. So yeah, we need at least 4 or 5 tickets for that bad boy.
We don't need to replace the Red Dragon, but producer Megan does. So maybe you can hit a PRP. Maybe she'll tail you on the PRP and get a reversal of fortunes here for herself. But
Let's do it.
But yeah, that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For producer Megan and Cody Saftik, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.